of us watching can agree that Super Mario 64 is a fantastic game, and its uniqueness made it so popular. After all, it was the first 3D Mario game, and it was a massive change from the regular 2D Mario games. The idea itself came from Star Fox's format during the SNES era, and Star Fox used a Super Effects chip, and many people believe that Super Mario 64 started out developing with the Super Effects chip and was planned for the SNES as well. However, some Super Effects developers deny this was the case, but it's still a common theory. The theory was started because of an interview with Miyamoto where he mentions that he was thinking of making a 3D Mario game whilst developing Star Fox. It's not just a new style that the game was made, but its storyline is very different from previous Mario games. The original theme for Mario was saving Princess Peach from castles, completing levels, just trying to reach the flagpole, and that was the main idea for Mario games at the time. However, Super Mario 64 has a completely new idea, where Princess Peach is still kidnapped, but instead of rescuing her specifically, Mario has to retrieve stars from levels by jumping in paintings and repeating this process until he reaches 70 stars. So you can have the final boss fight with Bowser and see Peach once again. The game itself was first revealed at Space World 1995, where the game was near its final phase, so not many major differences were shown during that event, but there were a few. One of these being the press start screen where the text had a fairly simple orange tint and font. However, the final version uses a rainbow effect with a more cartoony font. Speaking of cartoony, stages were a lot more colourful with a higher contrast and cartoony look. You could also notice that fences are missing from the sides like in the final versions, and the thwomps and bumps had a more threatening look to them. Speaking of threatening, penguins also had less happy emotions in their early textures. They contain really depressed facial features, for example their eyes. Unlike the final version of the penguins where their eyes are fully open, the final version of the penguins are also bigger than in the early textures of the penguins too. As a whole, the mobs in the game either had a more threatening look or more depressed look, which doesn't fit the style of a cartoony aesthetic with upbeat music. Many big ideas were scrapped from Super Mario 64, and these include the gold flagpole from the regular two-dimensional Mario games. And the reason why it was removed is because when the creators were asked what is the most important feature in a Mario game, they responded with scavenging for items. And I can't disagree with them there, because scavenging for items is really fun on this game. Also in the beta version, it used a different Mario voice where he talks with a high pitch. The castle also had very different phases. The outside of the castle had a dark grey and light grey brick pattern, but it's not very sharp and looks out of place. The final version fixed this by sharpening the colours of the bricks. The final version also uses a nice painting of Princess Peach, and it really stands out. But the beta version just has this weird box, where it seems to be a coin, with some black circle in the middle. I'm not really sure what that is meant to be, but my hypothesis is that they were still designing that part of the castle. The inside of the castle went through many stages. The wallpaper of the castle had a night sky theme, with moons and stars, but the final version uses a nice blue and green theme, with hills, clouds and a nice sky. The stairs of the castle didn't even exist at this time, and the reason for this remain unknown, but I believe that they were either wanted the user to interact with the castle like a level by jumping up and up, or they were just still developing the stairs. None of the other levels like the Bowser in the Dark World level, or the Princess Peach secret slide are visible in this image, and this either means they weren't in the game, or they're in a different part of the castle. Nobody really knows nowadays. The room for the Jolly Roger Bay painting had a very simple and basic look to it, with a small stairs leading up to the painting, and in this footage, the Japanese version of the painting is shown. And if you didn't know, the Japanese version utilises a bubbly water painting, but the Northern American and European use this painting of the sunken ship with water. And this either means that the footage is from the Japanese version, or this painting was originally going to be used for the North American and European version. The final version of the game uses a Jolly Roger Bay painting room with 2 fish tanks and a nice checkered floor, with a sky wallpaper and a brick wallpaper surrounding the painting, which is a large step up from the old boring painting room. A small change was also added to Jolly Roger Bay itself as well. The music had a less of a synth vibe to it, and doesn't really fit the water aesthetic as the final game's version of the song does. There are a lot more ideas that were added and removed, and if you want to find out about them, I recommend watching this video by Beta64, where he mentions a lot of ideas that I've covered, but he also mentioned a lot more. So the link to that video will probably be in the description. So now let's move on to the theories of Luigi's whereabouts in Super Mario 64. So this theory started to blow up not long after the game's release, and it was about Luigi being a playable character in Super Mario 64. The theory is that the eternal star in the backyard of the castle is meant to be a clue about Luigi being in the game, and the star apparently reads out L is real 2401. It also includes some other text, but no one has been able to identify what it actually says. And the quote, "L is real," really made people go mental about Luigi's whereabouts in the game. People were freaking out. Some people knew this was a joke by the creators to spark some theories. And some people would spend 24 hours of their day to looking throughout the castle to find Luigi. Trolls would make fake methods to finding Luigi, and people actually believed them and tried it. Like this method, where you had to collect 64 coins, then jump in the fountain, jump into the entrance of Hazy Maze Cave. Oh yeah, and don't forget, you had to play with a green controller. Like, I'm not making this up, this was an actual method that people actually tried. And this isn't even that ridiculous compared to some of the other methods I found. But yeah, this theory was around for about 10 years, until Nintendo spoke out and people were being proven wrong, and people started to make videos mocking the method attempters, and it all died down.
Castle, so it's not my problem. Look what's on the fountain. L is real. 2401. Oh my god, Mario, not you too. What? L is real 2401 is supposed to be some sort of riddle that people have wasted their lives on. They say if you find the secret, you play as me in Super Mario 64.
Furthermore, Luigi was actually intended to be a playable character in the actual game, and Miyamoto actually stated this fact in an interview, saying that Luigi was planned to be in the game from the very beginning, and Super Mario 64 was meant to be a multiplayer game. However, developers worked on this prototype where they could both enter the corridor of Peach's castle at separate times, and they even left the camera option for the camera to be fixed in the final game, which was meant to be for Mario and Luigi, where they could both be on other sides of the map and still remain visible. However, none of this really worked out because of the hardware limitations of that period in time, so that idea was scrapped. 8 years after Super Mario 64's release, Nintendo decided to port forward Super Mario 64 to the Nintendo DS, since the DS and the Nintendo Wii were the recent consoles Nintendo had made, and the game was actually really loved by Nintendo fans. They included a prominent role for Luigi, Yoshi was no longer a boring NPC on top of the castle, and he could now be a playable character, and he is a playable character in the beginning of the storyline for Super Mario 64 DS. The storyline now is different from the original Super Mario 64 story. Characters are now locked away in the castle instead of Peach just being locked away in the castle. Yoshi will now have to collect keys from specific levels like Bowser levels and etc to let them out of their rooms they are located in. This may seem like it will be a game just for Yoshi, but you actually need to unlock Mario to complete some of the other levels, so Mario is very prominent in the game. And these characters could be used in different ways. They could obtain different power-ups, and their strengths and weaknesses vary between each other. For example, Wario could break through harder blocks since he is a large character. And this game also made a multiplayer feature, where players had to obtain stars in different places in the maps they were placed in, and the person with the most stars won. So players could battle it out and enjoy themselves, rather than having to take turns on the regular Super Mario 64 single player mode. Next I'll be talking about is Machinima era. I'm sure you've all heard of Machinima. They used to make animated gaming films, so around 8 years ago, Machinima thought it was a good idea to make machinimas of Super Mario 64. And these videos gained around 2 to 20 million views on each video. And these videos also brought the game back alive in the community. And not just Machinima, but other channels as well would start to make Super Mario 64 animated films. And the Nintendo community loved it. Quite recently, a ROM hack by the name of Super Mario 64 Online was produced, with allowing 24 players to play in Super Mario 64 all at once. And yes, the ROM is kind of buggy and has a lot of errors and lag, but if around 5 players played at once, the game would work fine. This new ROM hack included several new avatars with textures like it was made by the developers of Super Mario 64. The Yoshi character was replaced with a nicer texture, unlike how the original developers made Yoshi. A Luigi character which looked like Mario but a bit taller, a blue themed Toad, a Peach with a remodeled character, Rosalina from Super Mario Galaxy, and last but not least, Waluigi and Wario. So this combination of new characters were great, and even if you didn't have people to play with, you can go on their Discord server and join users' online servers that they made. And the game itself is exactly like Super Mario 64. You can do the normal story, you don't even need to be with other people. You can have people in your lobby around the castle whilst you still go into other levels. So you could go fight Bowser, and then someone else could be in Bomb Battlefield. Unfortunately, this server is kinda dying and not many people are playing it as much anymore. Finally, we'll be talking about the speedrunners of this game. And this game still remains to be one of the most popular games to do speedruns on, mainly because of its little glitches and tricks you can do to cheat through a level. The world records for this game are constantly changing. The most popular speedrun theme for Super Mario 64 is the 120 star speedrun, where the player must obtain 120 stars in the shortest amount of time. Currently, the #1 speedrun for the 120 star game was done by Truise, in a time of 1 hour and 39 minutes and 28 seconds. And this was only done 4 months ago, even though this game's been out for like 20 years. As of writing the script, that third highest world record was only done 8 days ago. Only more than 1 week ago, and this game has been out for 20 years. Which really shows how obsessed people are with speedrunning on this game. And why wouldn't they be? This game is flawless for speedrunning, and it's funny and exciting to see speedruns in this game. Sometimes a little bit awkward and annoying.
And right here I use a setup where... Here.
Well.
Crooked card.
Well then.
Nightmare fuel.
Alright, no problem. My game just kind of crashed there.
But to me, today, it's still amazing how people work on this game. To get the perfect positioning and timing to obtain a star. The way people make methods to killing Bowser in a short amount of time. And my favourite speedrunner of Super Mario 64 is Siglemic. Even though he is 18th on the list at the moment, his highest speedrun was done 3 years ago. And ever since that, he quit doing Super Mario 64 speedruns. He, to me, always looked uncomfortable when doing public speedruns like at GamesDoneQuick. But he would always do very good at speedruns.
Oh.
Nice.
Like, for example, he is so into the game that he doesn't really listen to the question he is asked.
By the way, commenter here, when is it okay to read stuff?
Yeah. Oh, when? He asked when? Okay, sorry.
So moving aside from Siglemic, some of these world records were done in a span of this year. Like I previously mentioned, the highest only being done 4 months ago, and the second highest only being done 4 months ago. So yeah, that is it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Decode and this episode of Super Mario 64, a quick recap on it. Thanks to all the people who helped me in the video. They will be at the side of this video and in the description. So yeah, thanks to them for making stuff for me, giving me ideas, and yeah, it's really nice of them. I swear it took me ages to make. I'm going through exams at the moment, and so yeah, and it took me a while to get all this research and all this stuff together and to learn more about editing, and I really love editing stuff for you guys, and I really love the feedback you give me, and yeah, we're just a really nice community, so yeah, I'll post more relating stuff about Super Mario 64 in the description and in the comments maybe, so you can read more about his history, and find out more about Luigi, the beta graphics, the speedrunning, and etc, etc. So yeah, it's been me, Lewex, and I bet you all farewell.
Here we go, off the rails, but you know it's time to raise our sails. It's freedom like you never knew.